What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be talking about all the scams that are going down. Every time there's an economic downturn, all the scammers start showing up because they can't afford their cars, they ran out all the PPP loans, and all the stimulus ballers are doing whatever they can to hold on to that lifestyle. Now, the reason why I'm bringing you this video is I ran into a few issues with either stolen cars or cars with bad VINs. So we're gonna go over a lot of this stuff just to double check and see, just to make sure that you guys don't get scammed. Now, before I get into the video, if you do me a huge favor and gently squeeze the like button for the YouTube algorithm, it helps you find more amazing people like yourselves that enjoy automotive content. Also, please consider subscribing. We do post 3 times a week, so make sure you click the notification bell. And once again, follow us on Instagram at Lucky Lopez, and let's get into the video. So one of the reasons why I decided to make this video is one of our students was running into a lot of issues with cars that he was buying. They had multiple problems, VIN problems, everything else. And so I wanted to bring up some of the scams and things that people do during, like I said, these economic downtimes to try to rip people off. So the very first one is a double title. Now, this sounds weird and complicated, but this is how it works. A lot of times what people will do is they will have original title and then they'll file for a duplicate. Now, with the duplicate title, which is the new one issued, they will go to like a payday loan store, a bank, or whatever else and borrow money against the car. But then they take the old title and then they put it on Craigslist for sale. So somebody like yourself, unfortunately doesn't know any better, will walk down there and be like, oh man, this car is really cheap. And they usually put it for cheap so they could sell it quickly. So you get there and you're like, hey, there's this 2012, I don't know, Acura for 3,500 bucks. Guy needs money to get out of town. They always have some story. So you go down there, you give them 3,500 bucks and you get the car. You look at the VIN number, VIN numbers match. You look at the title looks good, everything's signed off, you're good to go. So then you turn around and you either sell it, take it to an auction, or try to register it, and then you find out that there's already a lien holder on the vehicle, that was not the original title. Now, you're going to see this more and more as the economy gets crappier because people are just basically desperate, trying to get as much money as they possibly can for their vehicles. So how do you prevent this? How do you find out if this is fraud or if your title is the real title? Now, the first way you can do this is with Carfax. Not a lot of people know this, but if you pull a Carfax, not only does it tell you the history, but on the top right corner, it'll give you the title number. So what you do is you look at that title number and then you match it to the title you have. Because sometimes, mistakes happen. People lose a title, they file for a new one, and then they find their old one. You just want to make sure that that title matches that number, because if it doesn't, do not buy the car. And like I said, if it is an honest mistake, you can go down to the DMV. They can correct it right there on the spot. I usually recommend a lot of people doing this. So if you plan on buying a car from a person to person or something else like that, especially if it's a high dollar car, I always recommend either getting a loan through your bank and purchasing it that way so you have bank protection, or you go straight to the DMV before you hand them the check and say, look, I just want to make sure the title's clean. Give them a story. Say, hey, my uncle got burned. I just want to make sure that I'm good to go. And if they're honest and legit, I don't mind doing that. I've done that with some of the cars that I've sold. Some of my more expensive cars, I had a 67 Mustang Fastback and I sold it for 70 grand. This was back in the day. And the guy was so paranoid. He didn't want to give me cash. He wanted to give me a check and he wanted to do it at the bank. And I was like, no problem. I was like, how about this? Why don't we go to the DMV? You can verify that everything is good to go. And then after that, we can go to the bank. It was very easy, very simple. I was an honest buyer. I wanted to sell my car to get the money. So obviously I'm going to go through those extra hoops to get the money that I need. So if they start saying, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have enough time, then they're not serious or they're trying to scam you. So those two things could save you a lot of headache when you're buying that. Now, what I've been seeing a lot lately, especially in the highline and exotic car realm, is a lot of these scammers doing that. They'll use their PPP loans, they'll borrow money against different things, they'll use it, sometimes there's a lot of banks where they'll put a lien on it. Like in some states, they'll put a lien on the car, but it won't show up as the lien holder on the title. But when you try to go register it, there's a block in a different state. So you could go submit the paperwork, get your plates, but then wind up getting the title kicked back, and that's when you get a call from them. So unfortunately, there's a lot of people doing that right now. Now, one of the repos that we went to go look at, it was the guy that had the loan, had the car, we went to repo it, and all the VINs didn't match. So we looked at the dash VIN was different, the VIN on the door was different, the one on the trunk was different. And so what we did is I got the list of all the VINs for a Rolls-Royce Ghost, and I started going through the whole car. I started looking underneath, on the firewall, all the metal places that a lot of these criminals don't think to switch out. And we saw that the loan for the car was, the VIN number for that car that matches the loan was on the chassis. The guy just was trying to dodge the repo guy, and he didn't want to give out the car. And we found a glove box, or excuse me, in the glove box, we found a title with that other VIN number on there. Now, I don't know if it was matching or not. We pretty much took that stuff, gave it to the police department in California. We let them mess with it. But that's what's going on. These guys are going around switching dash fins and door stickers with different cars. Sometimes they'll get a wrecked Fireball rolled over piece of crap from Copart iaai, get the title, get the VINs. They'll order these, and you can actually order VINs from like the dealership, or you can just get them made. But these ones were so poorly made. Like when I saw the one on the dash, it was like a little piece of metal stuck over the metal with like glue around it. You could just tell it was janky as hell. They didn't even take the time to take the windshield off to at least make it look pretty. They just stuffed it down there, and you could see the other plate right behind it. So, but that's what these guys are doing. So you want to protect yourself when it comes to this. Now, another way to make sure that you don't fall into this trap, especially when you're buying exotic cars, there's a lot of this scamming going on in LA, Atlanta, Georgia, which is like the mecca for like ballers on a budget there, and then Miami. There's all these guys buying these stolen cars, wrecked cars, damaged cars, switching out VINs, all kinds of shady stuff. I tell a lot of people, when you buy these type of cars, don't buy it from a person. Buy it from a dealership. Buy it from some sort of business that you have recourse. Yes, you have to pay sales tax, but I'd rather drop $10,000, $15,000 than lose $200,000, because if that car is stolen and they report it and you check the VIN and you find out it's not the right car, you lose that whole car completely. You don't get your money back. And then the worst thing is the guy that they catch, he just gets in trouble for selling you stolen goods because they can't prove that he stole the car. So he gets away with your $200,000 and you got to chase him civilly, which is a pain in the ass. So when it comes to these exotic cars, try to buy from a dealership, check the Carfax, check the VIN numbers, and also take that car down to a certified shop or take it to an actual dealer. So if it is a McLaren, or if it's a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, drive it down there and ask them to scan the ECU or PCM and TCM and see if the VIN numbers match. That's one you could see, because a lot of these scammers don't think that complicated, and they don't have the tools to change the VIN numbers in the actual computers. So if you take your car down to Lamborghini and they say, hey man, I got this smoking deal on this Lamborghini Huracan, I just want to make sure it's okay. And you don't have to tell the buyer. You could say, look, I just want to get a pre-sale inspection. And a lot of times they'll say whatever. Take it down there and specifically ask the service writer, say, I need you to read me the VIN number or get the VIN number off the PCM, TCM, and ECU. He will give you those VIN numbers and you can just make sure that it matches. Not only for your peace of mind, just to make sure that your car is not pish-posh from a bunch of different parts, so you can know if maybe the car was wrecked. If the transmission VIN's different from the other two VINs, you could ask him, oh yeah, I bought it this way, or oh, it was wrecked. It gives you a little bit more information, but the big thing is it'll tell you if the guy stole it and swapped the VINs. And a lot of times people don't know this until their car is flagged, and then they take it into the dealership or something, they run the VIN, next thing you know it comes up stolen, and next thing you know you're getting arrested at a dealership. It's not your fault, you didn't do anything, you bought a car with a bad VIN number. Now, some police departments don't mind running VIN numbers. I used to recommend this one a lot because there was a lot of helpful things they can do. But here in Vegas, even as a dealer, I used to call Las Vegas PD when I used to feel like that sketchy feeling. And I would say, can you do me a favor? Can you run a VIN number just to make sure that the car's not stolen? And sometimes they were friendly and they used to do it. Now, they're like, no, we're too busy, blah, blah, blah. You know, we used to have a State Patrol website that we used to share on the channel that you could type in the VINs and it'll let you know if it's stolen or there's some sort of issue. But now that website's dead and nobody's doing it anymore. But if it's a big purchase, especially something like if you're buying, you know, a 60,000 plus car, I would even go that far as giving the VIN to a police officer. If you have a friend that's a cop, if you know somebody on Facebook, Instagram, or if you just want to take 5 minutes, go down to the police station, print out the Carfax, give them the VIN number, because believe it or not, the car could be stolen, but if you run a Carfax and the VIN comes out clean, that just means it's clean for accidents. It could be actually stolen. So you don't want to mess with that. A lot of these scammers started buying these stuffs with like CPNs, LLCs and other people's names, all this crazy fake stuff. And now that scamming is just so rampant that a lot of these banks are catching up with it, so they're going after these people and shutting them down. But what they do is they get desperate and they'll change the title to like 2-3 different people. Like it'll be in their company name, they'll put it like in their cousin's name, their mom's name, their brother's name, then they'll put it in their name, and then they try to sell it. So it's called washing a title. So they try to go to either different states, put it in different people's name, so this way it's skipped far enough so there's not a trace. But there's some legalities depending on your state where even if they committed fraud through other things, that car basically is entitled to them and they could take that car. Now, one of the other things you could do to prevent this is, like we said earlier, purchase from a dealership. If you purchase from a dealer or you actually get a loan through your bank and let's say the title is bad, whatever else, you can actually tell your bank that you don't want the car, there's too many issues, and they have to forgive your loan. They'll bitch and they'll cry and they'll complain, but that's your backup. Like this group with Excel, there's a lot of people that got screwed over buying cars that were owned by other people. If they would have gone through the banks, they would have had some sort of legal recourse where like, hey, you can't get the title, you can't provide me with the title, I'm going to step away. This is your problem now. You worry about the car. And that's one of the things that filters you get of protection when you purchase through a bank, or at least when you purchase through a dealership. If the car is bad and let's say the dealer didn't know, it sucks, but the dealer by law has to give you your money back. And most times they will, because I've gotten cars like that before where people told me they lost their title, whatever else, I filed for the paperwork, and then the car winds up being, registered in somebody else's name. They registered it stolen, trying to get some insurance money, like all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's just one of the things you have to deal with. But if you buy it from a dealer, you could file a complaint with the DMV, and this way you're protected. So now the dealer has to pay you back, and if they don't, you can go after their bond and get your money back. But most dealer bonds, depending on your state, are only from $50,000 to $100,000. So if you're going for $200,000, $300,000, make sure you purchase through your bank. I don't care even if you have a check and you can write a check for that car. Never use your own money to purchase something that expensive. Use the bank's money. Give it 3 months, let the title clear, let all the paperwork clear, let all the dust settle, and then you stroke a check and pay it off. Now you got 2 layers of buying protection. You have the dealer, which you could sue them, go after their bond, and then you also have the bank. If they can't produce title, you don't have to fulfill the loan, or now the headache's on the bank to go get the title from the dealer and to file the necessary paperwork from the DMV to produce the title. So that's some of the stuff I want to warn you guys about, because as this economy tanks, you're going to see more and more of these scammers popping up out of the grounds. Now, dealers, if you get people, run their information through Westlake and through Cuddle, which is Credit Union Direct Lending, because a lot of these banks now are attached to LexisNexis. This will prevent a lot of these fake, bogus CPN numbers going through your dealership. These guys are going to come out in force because a lot of these people have awful credit now. They've already spent their money. So now they're going out buying CPN numbers with trade lines going after your dealership. Now for people watching, CPNs are illegal. I don't care what you say. Everybody says they're great. You can own a CPN. There's nothing wrong with owning a CPN. But the second you use it to defraud a business, to apply for credit, that's where it's illegal. So I hate these debates when I get them in the comment section. It's totally legal, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. You can have one, but the second you apply for credit and you're intending to defraud somebody on getting credit, it's not the same. You can get an EIN number, which is a business number, which is attached to your social, and you could use that to get credit if your personal credit sucks. There's a legal way of doing this. You don't have to go around and do all this shady stuff. But dealers, you need to check this. If you're a bigger dealership or franchise store, I recommend getting LexisNexis. We can actually track their names, their information. We can see if they've put taxes down and if they have any utilities in their name, multiple addresses. This is how we tell you if you're a real person. If you're 40 years old, you come into my dealership with a CPN number and I run it and there's no utilities, no taxes filed, nothing that's similar like your name, then we know the number's bogus, that you're more likely going to buy this car and disappear the second it's going to happen. And I hate to say it, we're seeing this more and more often. And like I said, it's rampant in California, Georgia, and Florida. We see it a lot here in Vegas, but a lot of the dealers are kind of hip to it. And most of these guys, they always have really high credit, but they don't have down payments. And that's another reason, like another tell for us. So please be careful. Check your information. Check all the steps. Never roll a deal until you get all the verification. You verify their email, their phone number, Don't take bank statements, make them log in on your computer and print them out. Your paycheck stubs, use your calculators, verify them, because now we can tell basically where fake pay stubs are. Because if any of this stuff gets through there, most dealers, when you have a contract with the banks, you have to buy back any fraudulent contracts that come up. So even though it's not your fault, this guy was a complete shitbag, used a fake CPN, fake phone number, fake everything, and takes off with the car and doesn't make a single payment, you, by law, have to buy it back from the bank. It could be 6 months, 8 months, 1 year down the road. If they do an audit and they see the information is bad, they can come after you, and they do it. And they especially do it when an economic downturn happens, because now they're squeezing for every dollar because they can't get new business in because nobody has down payments. So they're trying to raise the level of defaults and what they have and basically check all their books. So every time you roll a car, get all the steps before you roll it, because you may not see that person again. So please be very careful out there. If you have any questions, concerns, or if you have a story yourself, please put it in the comment section below. I love to hear your guys' stories or your opinions. If you're a dealer, if you see a lot of this fraud, please share it in the comment section below. But once again, make sure you smash the like button. Also consider subscribing. And once again, follow us on Instagram @LuckyLopez, and we'll see you next video.